Hello, boys and girls of Mrs. Wendling's class. Hopefully you haven't forgotten me. This is Christy, and if you'll recall, I work at the Hayes Presidential Library and Museums, and usually I come to you through the Rotary Club of Fremont, and we read stories together. But since we aren't able to do it in person, I spoke with Mrs. Wendling, and we thought we could try and work out a way for me to read to you online. So that's what we're going to do, and we're still going to have some fun together, even if I can't be with you in person. So this book is specifically geared toward the kindergartners of Mrs. Wendling's class, but I think first graders, you will enjoy it also. It's a very cute story. It's called Hamsters Don't Fight Fires. And we have a little hamster here who's saying, why not? So, we usually start before we read our books. We try and make some guesses. We express our curiosity about the cover. So why might this hamster be thinking, why not? Maybe it's because he's thinking about a firefighter, becoming a firefighter, and it's not a typical thing for hamsters to become firefighters. So I bet he runs into some challenges. There might be some points in the story maybe where he feels like he shouldn't become a hamster. But let's start to read and we'll find out for sure. So the author of our book is Andrew Root, and it's illustrated by Jessica Olean. Hugo was a hamster. Hugo was many things. He was helpful, polite, generous, and a great cook. A fast runner, a slow eater, and a fantastic dancer. Cha-cha-cha. However, Hugo was not strong, tall, able to sing, or particularly good at bowling. And Hugo was certainly not a firefighter. Still, Hugo had always wanted to be a firefighter. Ever since he was young, he loved the flashing lights of the fire engines and the awesome suits that the firefighters wore. Hugo also loved helping others, which is exactly what firefighters get to do all day long. After all, who needs more help than a scaredy cat stuck in a tree? Or a chef who can't cook for his guests because his barbecue is on the fritz. Can you help? The chef is asking. You should become a firefighter, Hugo. You'd be great at it, Hugo's friend Scarlett said to him one day. I'm sure it would be difficult, but you should never be afraid to try something new, Scarlett explained. Look at me. I may be a snake, but someday I'll be the first reptile astronaut to blast into outer space. So it's wonderful that Hugo's friend is encouraging him to give firefighting a try. And think about strengths that you have. What are things that you are really good at? And I'll give you just a second to think about that. And maybe if you have a grown-up nearby, your mom and dad, or a brother or sister, you could share some of the things with them that you're really good at. So I'm going to think about something I'm really good at. I think I am pretty good at baking. I really like to bake. I like to make bread. I like to knead the bread. I like the smell of the yeast. And people seem to like what I bake. But I'm not always, sometimes it doesn't always turn out like how I thought it would. So I would say I'm pretty good at baking, but I'm not perfect at it. But I do enjoy it. But anyway, give some thought to things that you're good at, because I bet you're good at lots of things. Hugo was still nervous, but he decided that Scarlett was right. Even though he was small, perhaps he should try to become a firefighter. He gathered his courage, walked down to the station house, and convinced the fire chief to give him a chance. However, things did not look good when he put on a fire suit that was much too big, sprayed the fire hose that was much too heavy, attempted to drive the fire engine that was much too fast, and tried to slide down the fire pole that was much too high. "I am much too small," he said. "How can I help when I'm not big enough to slide, drive, or spray the hose like the other firefighters?" Hugo was ready to give up and go home. But just as Hugo was leaving the station, an emergency call came in over the radio. A forest fire was going on in the Great Woods just outside of town. "Hurry! Let's go!" Hugo tried to stay out of the way of the others, but in all the rush and confusion, he was given a fire suit that was much too big, and somehow ended up on the back of the truck. And he looks a little worried about that. When they arrived at the Great Woods, the firefighters rushed into action, unraveling hoses, setting up the ladders, and spraying water all around. Hugo watched the action and wished he was big enough to help. Then he looked up and saw a baby bird trapped in a nest at the tippy top of a tree. He told the firefighters about the bird, but no one knew what to do. The tree was so tall that none of the ladders could reach the nest. The branches were too old and too weak for any of the bigger firefighters to make such a dangerous climb. As the flames grew higher, Hugo knew what he had to do. He might not be a real firefighter, but the little bird needed his help. Gathering all his courage and strength, Hugo ran to the tree and started to climb. Hugo was very quick, and soon he reached the nest. With the scared baby bird carefully balanced on his back, Hugo rushed down the tree to safety. Back on the ground, all the firefighters were cheering for Hugo. He had done what no one else could. The baby bird was safe and back in her mother's wings. Hugo's bravery had saved the day. Hooray! Yay for Hugo! The fire chief came over and exclaimed, "I had my doubts, Hugo, but today you showed everyone that there is more to being a firefighter than how big you are. We would be proud to have you as part of our team." All the firefighters clapped for Hugo and lifted him up on their shoulders in congratulations. The local newspaper even took a picture. It was on the front page the very next day. So Hugo looks happy here, right? His face has changed. He doesn't look as scared as he did when he was on the back of the fire truck. So think about some adjective words. Remember we've talked about adjectives. They are describing words. So let's think of words that might describe how Hugo looks in this picture and how Hugo might have felt to have his picture on the front page of the newspaper because he had accomplished something so amazing. So good adjective words to describe Hugo might be, he might be happy, he might be excited, he might be proud. So you guys think of some words and share those with somebody that you have at home with you. Hugo became the newest member of the North Creek Fire Station, and as it turned out, he also could make an amazing 4-alarm firehouse chili, excelled at teaching the younger animals about fire safety, knew all the shortcuts for navigating the fire engine around town, left, then right, could climb the tallest ladder to rescue the scariest cat, and was small enough to fix even the most difficult broken barbecue. And who would have guessed that you could even order a special hamster-sized fire suit from the internet? So his size that he's ordering is mouse/rat. Hugo was a hamster. He was still helpful, polite. The chicken is saying cluck, cluck, and Hugo is saying, "After you, ma'am." a generous, great cook, bon appetit, a fast runner, a slow eater, he looks pretty tired in this one, and a fantastic dancer. But now he was also a firefighter, and he could not have been any happier. So even though Hugo had his doubts and other people had his doubts, he had the talents that he did have, he put to good use, and he was able to become a firefighter, even despite those doubts. So I hope that if you have a dream and something that you really want to do, you won't let anything stand in your way, and you'll still accomplish what you want to do. Thank you.